It began as an ordinary morning. A clear blue sky stretched over New York City. Children hurried to school, office workers grabbed coffee, and thousands of commuters flooded into trains and elevators. At airports across the country, planes taxied down runways and lifted into the air. It was, in every sense, a normal Tuesday. Nothing suggested that in just a few minutes the course of history would be forever altered. Then, the unthinkable happened. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. A fireball exploded from the building's side, sending glass and debris tumbling hundreds of feet. Confusion rippled across the city. Was it an accident? A pilot error? News cameras rushed to the scene, broadcasting images of black smoke pouring into the morning sky. On the streets below, crowds gathered, craning their necks, staring upward at the burning tower. No one knew what to think. 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower. This time, the world watched it live. The explosion of fire and smoke left no room for doubt this was no accident. This was an attack. Panic spread instantly. In offices across America, people gasped at their televisions. In New York, screams filled the air. The city's proud skyline, its tallest symbols of ambition and commerce, had become targets of unimaginable violence, and the terror did not stop there. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 slammed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., the very heart of America's military command. A dark plume of smoke rose from the nation's capital, and with it came a chilling realization. The entire country was under assault. Meanwhile, high above Pennsylvania, passengers aboard United Airlines Flight 93 pieced together what had happened in New York and Washington. Through frantic phone calls, they learned that their plane was part of the same plot. They made a choice decision that would turn them into heroes. Banding together, they attempted to storm the cockpit. Their struggle forced the plane down into a field in Shanksville, sparing its intended target, believed to be either the U.S. Capitol or the White House. Though they perished, their sacrifice saved countless lives. Back in New York, chaos reigned. Inside the Twin Towers, thousands were trapped above the crash sites. Some managed to call their families, leaving final, heart-wrenching messages. Firefighters, police officers, and emergency workers raced upward into the buildings, climbing floor after floor, determined to save as many as possible. Outside, ash and burning debris rained down on the streets. People fled on foot across bridges, their faces covered in soot and shock. At 9:59 a.m., after burning for just 56 minutes, the South Tower gave way. The skyscraper crumbled to the ground in a deafening roar, unleashing a massive cloud of smoke and dust that rolled through lower Manhattan like a tidal wave. People ran, choking and blinded, clutching one another as they tried to escape the suffocating gray fog. Only 29 minutes later, at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower collapsed too, vanishing in seconds. The Twin Towers, once proud symbols of New York, were gone. In their place lay a smoldering pile of rubble and twisted steel, known afterward as Ground Zero. By evening, America was in shock. Nearly 3,000 people were dead. Office workers, flight crews, passengers, firefighters, and police officers. More than 400 first responders men and women who ran toward danger never returned home. Hospitals prepared for waves of survivors, but far fewer arrived than expected. Families wandered the streets holding photos of missing loved ones, clinging to hope. In the days that followed, walls and subway stations filled with flyers of the missing. The city became a place of mourning, but the grief was not confined to America. Around the world, people watched in stunned silence. In London, Paris, Lagos, Tokyo, and beyond, vigils were held. Crowds gathered in solidarity. Strangers wept for people they had never met. For a brief moment, the entire world felt united in sorrow. The days after September 11th were filled with silence and fear. For the first time in history, U.S. airspace was shut down. Not a single commercial plane flew for days. The New York Stock Exchange closed, borders tightened, soldiers patrolled city streets. Life as people knew it was frozen, and then came the aftermath. Within weeks, America declared a war on terror. Troops were sent to Afghanistan to dismantle al-Qaeda and hunt down its leader, Osama bin Laden. Later, war spread to Iraq. Security changed forever. Airports became fortresses. Governments expanded surveillance powers. The very way people thought about safety and freedom was rewritten. But beyond politics, the legacy of 9/11s was deeply personal. Survivors carried scars, both physical and invisible. Children grew up without parents. Families mourned birthdays, graduations, and milestones that would never be shared. First responders developed illnesses from working in the toxic debris. And every year since, the names of the nearly 3,000 victims are read aloud in solemn remembrance, ensuring they are never forgotten. Today, at the site of the towers, stands One World Trade Center, the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. Beside it lie two memorial pools built in the footprints of the fallen towers. Water flows endlessly into their depths, symbolizing both loss and memory. Visitors walk quietly among the engraved names, feeling the weight of history beneath their fingertips. Yet, even as the memorials honor the dead, the questions linger. How did that day truly change the world? Did it make us stronger or more fearful? Did it unite us or divide us further? Nearly 2 decades later, the answers are still being written. September 11th, 2001 was more than just an American tragedy. It was a moment when humanity saw both the darkest side of destruction and the brightest sparks of courage. It reminded us that history is not something distant, it is something we live, something that shapes us in ways we may never fully grasp. And so we tell the story again and again. Not to reopen old wounds, but to remember, to honor, to understand. Because 9/11 was not just the day the towers fell. It was the day the world changed, and its echoes will never fade. If this story touched you, share it with someone else. Let the memory live on.